Guys, what's up? It's John, and I'm one of the project leads at CollectorVision Games, one of the co-owners. I'm going to do gameplay of City Hunter and the Curse of the Mayan. First thing I want to show you, this one is we're working on a Japanese port version of it, and this I just want to show you guys what we've been working on. This is in obviously Japanese. We're also working on a Spanish and French translation as well. So excited for all those versions to come out soon. This game took quite a while for us to develop. It started off as a simple NES game kind of related to Montezuma's Revenge, which hence is kind of where the theme came from. It evolved, became too big for the NES. We decided to port this to modern platforms. So as of recording this, it's currently out for Nintendo Switch eShop as well as Steam. Working on ports currently for the PS4 and Xbox One, and soon I'm sure modern consoles next generation as well. This project was a lot of fun to work on, a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, tears went into this. Shout out to Russ Kumro, who's the programmer. Ben Allen did the music. JF Dupuis helped with some of the level design. Also shout out to Keith Erickson, who came out with the character City Hunter himself. This is not the first City Hunter game to come out. We've got about 4 or 5 different ones, but like I said, this is the first one to come out for modern platforms. So really enjoyed the graphics and doing the characters. My role of this game was working on the story, some of the enemies you see in the game, all that good stuff. So let's skip here and show you more of the English version. So when the new build comes out, you'll have your selection of what language you want to choose if you prefer English, French, Spanish, or Japanese. But right now, the version out right now is only in Japanese. It takes a lot of work to translate the game in different languages. We've got people to help us, which is great, but it's pretty tedious work. There's a lot of dialogue in this game. Here is the kind of menu screen. You can collect your profile, and each profile, it kind of shows you how many gods you've defeated. You can enter your name here. Kind of reminds me of Zelda. I think this was taken of Zelda, and that's what this game's all about. This is what we call kind of a love letter to the classic games where we grew up. So you'll see things playing this game. You'll see things related to Zelda, to Mario, to Mega Man, from Castlevania, even some TurboGrafx 16 games, for example. There's some influences. So we all grew up playing the classics, and we just wanted a game that was fun, that had a really good plot, story, good gameplay, really a lot of compliments on the music. Ben did a great job with music. So here is the intro story. The story itself is fairly simple, starts fairly straightforward. City Hunter is an explorer in the Yucatan Peninsula. He finds this Mayan pyramid, goes inside, gets trapped, and comes across this Mayan here. But the game story does evolve as you play it, and it gets more in depth, so to speak. And so initially, when you try to talk to these Mayans, they're basically talking in Mayan. You can't understand what they're saying. Each level has a certain amount of crystal skulls. You have to collect various items. You have to collect special. There's 12 different relics, for example, you can collect. Kind of similar to the vein of Shovel Knight, you can break pots, and I guess it's kind of Castlevania as well. Get gems. Gems are going to be important to purchase items, and including elixirs that will help you with your health later on. There's merchants that will sell you things, so you definitely want to grind and get gems. I will tell you this: there are some parts of the game, if you rush through it, you may have to go back and get the crystal skulls. But you can play the game straight through without going back. It's up to you. You have to be patient. Try to break all the different blocks. You can kind of see which ones break and which ones don't. So you want to make sure you get all the gems you can on each screen possible. There's a key here coming up on the right. Each key is color coordinated with each gate. This is from Montezuma's Revenge. As I mentioned before, this game actually started off as a Montezuma's Revenge clone. If you haven't played that game, it's for the classics, for Commodore 64, ColecoVision, PC, the classic PC, for example. A really fun game, and that was a huge inspiration for this one as well. A lot of people will say that City Hunter himself looks like Spelunky. I kind of see that, but to be quite honest with you, I've never really played Spelunky. I've seen gameplay of it. It looks like a really good game. I know it's very, very popular, but certainly for us as a team, I can speak for all of us that he was not an inspiration. Spelunky himself was not an inspiration for City Hunter. City Hunter was created years ago by Keith Erickson. Here's a save point that you just hit up. You can save it. Also will replenish your health. You start off with 3 hearts in the game. You can get later on, you can buy meals that will give you additional ones. So this goes back to the gems. You gotta get gems for sure. Here's the first crystal skull. One thing cool is before every level, it tells you how many skulls are in each level, how many diamonds. There's some big yellow diamonds in the game that are worth extra points. I believe it's 150 gems each. And it'll tell you how many of those are in each game. So if you're a completionist, you kind of know what you're missing. You know exactly where you're going. There's no second guessing as far as where do I find this. These bats will follow you if you're not careful. If you do, you can duck in the game. That's taken from Mario 3, that graphic right there. And if you duck, they will hover above you, but they will leave eventually. So you got to be patient with them. Oh, I'm almost one more heart. I will die, unfortunately, so I'll be very careful. In this game, you start off with a whip. There are other weapons available. You can get a boomerang, for example. There's a spear, which is the only weapon you can use underwater. Early builds of this game we had where you could actually whip underwater, but it doesn't make any sense to use a whip underwater, just logistically. So we want to try to stay true to that. And we did a lot of research on the Maya culture. A lot of these elements you hear, like the background in the top right, that's actually a Mayan artwork, that legit Mayan artwork that we just pixelated. Here's another key. And so in this case, I have to go back and get the blue key, but very rarely in this game do you see that backtracking. It's not overkill. It gets this kind of Metroidvania feel in that sense. So each level is uniquely themed. You fight Mayan gods for the most part in this game. I'll save it again. I'll replenish my health, which is nice. My buddy Scott, who's helping play test this game, recommend that we do that. And I thought it was a really good idea. So go ahead and go over this way. Watch out for the firewall. Coming up here is a green elixir. I can use that elixir anytime I want. I can equip it in my item box there, or I can go to the menu screen and select it. What that will do for me, it's pretty helpful because it will replenish my health when I need it. There's other there's other colors. For example, there's red and orange as well. Here's another save feature. Now, if I were to die, this is where I start. Most levels have 2 or 3 save spots. There's a few later on that have 1 or 2. There's one specifically, I'll show you later in the gameplay. I'm breaking this down in segments. And that has, intentionally, we just put one at the very end. It was kind of a speed run course. We did it specifically for speedrunners. And it's one of the probably more challenging levels in the game. This game has a learning curve to it, but it's not overly cheap. As far as when you die, I feel like it's your fault. The controls are really tight, and that's one thing we wanted to make sure you don't, like when you get hit, for example, you don't jump back like you do in Castlevania. I always kind of hated that in the retro games. I mean, they're super hard, especially if you're in a platform and you're above fire and you get hit and you jump back. The reason they did that is so you don't keep getting hit and hit. In City, you can see you flash for a little bit. When you get hit, you're kind of invincible for a little bit. We actually extended that a little bit longer than initially. Then when the game came out, we updated a patch. It's made it kind of a little bit more easy for people who are fighting bosses. The game, we had some feedback that people thought the game was too challenging, so we made some subtle changes to make it slightly easier, but not overly cheap, because I think that the challenge is what makes this game fun and unique. Here's another hidden area. There's a lot of different screens here. I'm not quite sure how many screens are in the game. You kind of start off in this level, there's a lot of simple enemies, right? There's bats and spiders, etc. But later on, there's more advanced characters, and each of the enemies in this game is kind of a Mayan thing, whether it's a snake or whatever that you would actually encounter in an actual, like, this part of the country, you know, in Mexico. You gotta watch out for those firing arrows. You'll see that he blinks his eye when he fires those arrows, so that's kind of a good giveaway. And thankfully you can duck. When we first started this game, ducking was not a feature. I was playing this at one of the gaming shows I went to. I think it was Retropalooza, and someone recommended, hey, you should duck. And sure enough, we took that advice. So some play testing advice there, and we added that. These platforms will reappear, so if you go off screen, they will reappear on the screen. I fortunately have the right key. Now, if I wasn't sure what I had inventory-wise, I can hit the plus button. I'm playing this on the Switch controller, and it will show me exactly how many keys I have. And once you use that key, it's good. It's only done one and done, so you gotta make sure you have plenty. Here's the first kind of mini boss, and this is the level is called Chichén Itza, which is a big Mayan pyramid in actual Mexico. They call it chicken pizza. This guy's kind of tricky to figure out this pattern. He'll flash his eyes, so a big wave of fire will come out. So you just got to make sure that you watch out. Now those fireballs will hurt, take one heart away. However, if you get hit by that firewall and you can't jump over it without jumping on a platform, you will die automatically no matter how many hearts you have. So be careful of that. It doesn't. This particular boss doesn't show you how much life he has left. Most of them do. And there's an Easter egg coming up here. You'll see that City Hunter when he falls down. This is actually taken from Zelda 2, the waterfall with Link falling. I think JF came up with this idea with the transition with him falling from Zelda 2. It's one of his favorite Zelda games. I like Zelda 2 too as well. It's kind of a unique Zelda game for sure compared to other Zelda games. This is a really cool sequence. This kind of cuts into the evolved story I was talking about before. I love that band. I think the music did a really good job with this particular sequence. This is the Hab room. That's called the Hab calendar. It's actual Mayan calendar. You may recognize it. The Aztecs also use a very similar calendar as well. So this guy who's about to come down here using the lightning bolt, he is called Kukulkan. He's a feathered serpent god. So the Maya believed in him that he was half serpent, half human, and he basically takes all these items, and there is the sun god as well. So the Mayan calendar breaks, the Had calendar breaks into 7 different pieces. They take all these 4 idols, and it's your job now as City Hunter to find each of these pieces and save the end of the world. So that's the first part of the game, first level. I'll be back with another part 2. Thanks for watching, guys, and game on.